All right. Hello, everyone. Give me a thumbs up in the chat if you can see me or on your display. All right. Very good. The audio is working. Check this here. Okay. Let me. So we did have some problems with the link. So let me find the link here. New. Oh, let me see if this will do it. Okay. 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 Very good. So there was a problem with the original link that we used. We tried to send out an update, but I don't think people got all of the updates. So um, I did put the new link uh, on the home page. So maybe they will scroll to the home page and find the new link. All right. So let me give them just a few more seconds here. And let's see here. Do that. Let's over to here like that. All right. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get started. Welcome. My name is Doug Ray. I'm the Executive Director of PSIA. And thank you for coming to tonight's contest directors meeting. We know how important it is to have everyone prepared so that we can have a very successful meeting this weekend. And so we're happy to bring these meetings to you. The agenda for tonight is to review the packet resources. These are the items that will be in your packet when you pick them up at the tab room. An overview of how to conduct a contest and what you'll see on the rosters, and then I'll be able to answer any questions that you may have. If you're doing an objective contest, what comes in your packet is your individual contest director's checklist. It's the step-by-step guide for how to run the contest. The instructions for the contest, that's just the synopsis of the contest from the handbook. You can go to the website now and download what that will look like from the PSIA homepage. That's at psiaacademics.org. Then click on resources and then contest, and then you'll find all of that information under each individual contest. You'll have a roster of contestants. Please use pencil when writing on the roster because a lot of times we have to make changes. The alternates for the contest will be listed below or on the back of your roster. The list of personnel who is helping you with the contest will be written at the top. You'll have a green contest evaluation form. On this form, you will write down any problems that you had with the contest and include the list of personnel who did not show up or abandoned their position through the process. You'll also have the little contestant ID labels that you place on the test pages or the evaluations, in this case, test packets. Uh, you'll have the quiet please sign that you can give to your hall monitor if you have a hall monitor. If you don't have a hall monitor, you can just tape it to the door. You'll have a small manila envelope that'll have pencils and pens and paper clips. Inside your packet, you'll also have the sealed test packet and the sealed answer key packet. These sealed packets don't get opened until, for example, the test packet doesn't get opened until you're in the contest room, and the answer sheet packet, the answer keys packet does not get opened until you are in the grading room. If you are doing a subjective contest, it's much the same. You have the checklist, you have the instructions for the contest from the website and handbook, the roster with the alternates. You have the evaluation form, the ID labels, the quiet please sign, the manila envelope for having some pins for the graders and paper clips and such. And then you have the evaluation sheets and the judges' ballots. So the difference between a speech contest and the subjective contest, in the speech contest, the judges are required to come to the tab room to pick up their own packets. For the subjective contest, like ready writing, creative writing, and on-site drawing, the contest director has all of the judges' information and the paperwork. And this should say speech right here. This should say this is the speech director packet. So for speech, we have individual checklist, the instructions for the contest, the roster, the evaluation form, the ID labels, the quiet please sign, the manila envelope with pens and paper clips. And then you have some extra items. You have the ranking sheet and the speech instructions. So the ranking sheet for the speech contestants, and then you have the instructions on how to use the ranking sheet. You'll have the speaking order cards. Remember that we use speaking letters for the contestants, and those go from A through I. So, and the letter is already given on the roster. Make sure that that contestant receives that letter, and then that's the order that you go in for the speech. Speaker A, speaker B, speaker C, etc. You'll also have a 30 seconds remaining card for the grades 4 and higher speech contest. For storytelling in first, second, and third grade, it's a 30-second card that's more of a little, please wrap up your story, and it's a B holding a stop sign. In the fourth grade and higher speech level contest, there's a disqualification for going over time. In storytelling, there is not. But you do want them to wrap up their stories. Feel free to unmute yourself and ask questions as we go through this presentation, or type them in the chat. We'd be happy to answer questions as we go through. All right, here's an example of what the roster looks like. So at the very top, you have your schedule. It shows what part of the contest you're doing. Section is the actual contest itself. Then it gives the room and the date and the time. And then there are some check boxes here, so you can come in and check off each different part of the contest as you do that. You'll have the number of contestants in your contest. This is the maximum number of contestants that you are expecting. If you have a objective contest, you can use this number to count the number of tests that you have when you get to the contest room to make sure you have enough tests for your contest. Here's the list of personnel for your contest: the contest director, assistant director, and grader. Each of these people must report to you at their portion of the contest. The assistant grader is supposed to be there for all three parts. The graders are only supposed to be there for the grading section, not the contest itself and not the verification. All of these people should report to you. The only role that does not report directly to the contest director is the standby judge. Standby judges report to the tab room, and so that we can put them in different places as we need them for that time period. So here's what a standard roster looks like. You have the entry number. When you call the roll, you'll call for Jean-Luc Picard. Jean-Luc will raise his hand and you'll tell him he is number 501. And you can either let that person write 501 on their test, or your assistant director can write it on the test and then hand it to them. Either way is perfectly fine. Just make sure that the correct number does get written down so that there's no problems with trying to figure out whose test is whose. You go through the roster like that. Suppose that we have a person who has a star by their name, Reginald Barkley, and it says arrive from speech. This is an indication of a dual entry. A dual entry is when a contestant is participating in a speech event and some other event. And so what they do is they're allowed to leave the speech event early or arrive at the speech event late. And if they leave early, then they might be a little bit late to your contest. If they're allowed to arrive at the speech event late, they may leave your contest pretty quick, and you can let them go as soon as possible after their contest so that they can get to the other contest. If you have a student that you are expecting from another contest, so for example, Reginald is coming from another speech contest. If possible, what you want to do is you want to slow roll the process of starting the contest, because contestants do not get extra time or a different time frame to do the test. You want to give Reginald a chance to finish his speech and then come into your contest. So you can slow roll it a little bit. So for example, if your contest is an hour long, but it's really only a 30-minute contest, you can sort of hold up the contest for 10 or 15 minutes while you're doing the roll and passing out the test, and then you just sort of wait and give Reginald a chance to show up to the contest. There is a point where you have to go, right? Because you got to get the 30-minute contest done, and you have to collect all the tests, and you've got to give those contestants about 5 to 10 minutes to get to their next contest. That should give your dual entry people enough time to get to their contest. If it doesn't, then that's too bad. You have to start the contest. So suppose that you started this contest, it was a 30-minute contest, and he showed up 5 minutes into the contest. You do allow him to come and take the contest because he was given permission to come in and take the contest. But he doesn't get that extra 5 minutes back. He only gets the remaining 25 minutes of time. So they don't get extra time above and beyond what everyone else gets. And if they're late, they just don't get that time back. Okay. Here's a question from someone. For ready writing and creative writing, do the contest directors and assistant directors stay with the graders? No. You can, once you advise the graders on what they need to do, you can leave. I would say give them your cell phone, and so that whenever they get close to the end of ranking the contestants, that you come back and make sure it all gets written down correctly. Okay, because you'll be the one with the roster. The judges that are reading the essays should not have access to the roster. When you come back, the judges should just tell you, here are the ones that we have decided are the winners. Contestant 305 is first place, 308 is second place, etc. And then you can put that information on the roster. You do need to advise the judges before you leave that they need to rank the top 10, and there are no ties. So make sure that they abide by that, and everything will be fine. Okay, good question. All right, moving on back to the roster, we have, let's suppose that Jordy LaForge doesn't show up. So the state meet is a little bit different than the district meet. At a district meet, you just put in a substitute from the same school. The state meet is a closed meet. And so when a student is absent, it falls to the alternate that came from that district to take their place. That person in this case was Bob Crane. And so you would just mark out Jordy and you would write in Bob Crane. And you would change the school if it is from a different school. It doesn't have to be from a different school because the school's in the same district, but it probably will be a different school. Okay. If the person's not listed as the alternate, then they can't take the test. If you do have some sort of controversy, please call the tab room. I have the list of all the winners from the districts, and we can look up who should be the alternate and who should be in this place uh, and who's withdrawn and all that information. We have all of that information in the tab room, so we can look that up. And we'll advise you on whether or not that student should take the test. The alternates do not take the test unless they've been given permission to take the test. When you go to fill out the roster, please use pencil only because we do make mistakes. We do change things. You go to verification and you find out that an answer was incorrect. And so therefore now it changes that. Now you got to change all the scores and things like that. For ties, be sure and write tie next to the rank that is involved in a tie, and you skip the next place that would have been part of that tie. I'll show you an example of that in a second. If a student is absent, just write ABS. No need to do anything more elaborate like lines or anything. That's just too distracting. Uh, you need to have all your disqualifications approved by someone in the tab room. And then if they are approved, then you'll write DQ on the score line. You only rank through the top 10 and do not write the ordinal suffixes. So instead of writing first, 1 ST, second, 2 ND, just write 1, 2, 3. It makes it easier for the people who are entering the information in the computer to find the correct numbers and such. All right, here's an example of some scores. So we have 84, absent, 56, etc. And so you want to put the scores down for all the contestants, not just the top 10, but the scores for all contestants. And then for the top 10, you put down the ranks. And that would be first place, second place. We have a tie for third place. So that's 2 3s. And notice that there is no 4. We skip 4, go to 5, 6, and 7. Okay. When you do have ties and you come back to the tab room to get the awards, make sure that you mention that there are ties so that we give you the correct assortment of medals and ribbons. So can you have ties? In objective contest, yes. In subjective contest and speech contest, no. You must not have any ties in subjective contests like ready writing, creative writing, and on-site drawing, or in any speech contest. We have to break all ties. All right, so for our objective contest director and the checklist, after the grading, while you're still in the grading room, you want to go ahead and complete that contest roster with all the scores and the top 10 ranks. You do that in pencil. Then you need to paperclip the graded contestant answer sheet with the test and with a copy of the answer key. All that goes in paperclip together. That way, and you use a label and you'll put that on the top sheet, right? Usually on the test where it says in the corner, put the label here after the test. Some contests you put the labels before, and some you put them after. You have to put them after on the contests that are number sense and calculator. You can put them on the test booklets for like mathematics and music memory and things like that, you can put them on before. But if you do it afterwards, it's no problem, right? So you could do it after for all of them if you wanted to. It doesn't matter. Once you get all that ready, and you can have the graders help you with this, your assistant should help you with this as well. This paper clipping stuff that can all be, it doesn't have to be just you doing that. You can get help to do that. Once you finish that and you've got your roster filled out, return to the tab room with your roster completed. And you need to have your results viewed and initialed either by me or Ellen or Heather. An assistant there will help you help issue you the medals that you need to present during the verification and the state qualifier ribbons based on the numbers and the ties and all the other factors that go into how many awards you need. Do not write on the ribbons just yet, right? Because things can change during verification. And if you go ahead and write on the ribbons and it's the wrong name because that person then goes and ends up being a person in the top 6 where they get a medal, then that ruins the ribbon and you can't recycle the ribbon like that. So we don't write on the ribbons at this time. The other thing to remember is that every student that takes one of our tests at PSIA State ends up with something. They either get a state qualifier ribbon or they get a medal. Even if they get disqualified, they still end up with a state qualifier ribbon because they qualified for state. So every student walks out of the classroom with something. At that time, after you've done the grading, after you've come back to the tab room and picked up the awards and had everything checked out, then you go to verification. Verification is the time span where contestants have 15 minutes to look over their test and contest any of the grading that was done. Whether or not they believe that the answer on the key is incorrect, they can contest that. If they think that the score was miscalculated, they can contest that. And that's the role of the contest director and assistant director to go through that with them if they have something that they want to contest. You'll pass out the test to the contestants. After that last test is passed out, that's when you start the clock, 15 minutes. Remind the participants that they're not allowed to have any photography or videography during verification. Remember that this is the first weekend for state meets, and we use the exact same materials for the second weekend, which is in 2 weeks from this weekend. And so we don't want them to have the ability to photograph and take pictures of the test and the answer key and send that out to anybody else. If there are questions that you cannot resolve in the tab room about whether or not an answer is correct or incorrect or whatever it is, call the tab room. We'll be happy to help you resolve that. But make sure that if they're contesting something, that they have a rationale for contesting it, right? They can't just say, I think my answer was correct, and then force you to go through the process of doing that. They have to be able to sort of explain why they think their answer is correct or whatever. Since this is the first weekend, all of the tests have to come back to PSIA. And so you collect all the tests. They have to be paperclip back together. And you collect all of that, the test, the answer sheets, and the answer keys. Any test or item that is not returned will be a disqualification from the contest. And they'll be forced to return it, even if they've driven halfway home by now. That's after the 15 minutes and all the questions have been answered. If somebody raises an objection during the verification at 14 minutes and 30 seconds, the verification period is still not over until that question has been resolved. After verification is declared finished, that's when the results are final. Whatever the scores are, they stay. You pass out the qualifying ribbons to the contestants who did not place 1 through 6. Then you announce the medal winners one at a time, starting in 6th place and working your way up to 1st place. Drape the medals over the students. At this point, you do allow photography for the parents to take pictures of their kids getting awards. Usually I do the handshake and then smile for the cameras and all that sort of stuff.
Hey, Doug.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so if you rank 1 through 10, do you not announce 7, 8, 9, and 10, or you just give 7 through whatever the ribbons and just move right on to 1 through 6?
No, you do not announce 7th through 10th place, and they get treated just like regular state qualifiers. So they would not know that they're 7th through 10th until they look online to see that they're 7th through 10th. And you don't mention it during the contest either. Um, it's not as important for objective contests to have to that we know what 7th through 10th is, but it is important for subjective contest because if something is has been brought up that results in a disqualification, then we need to know the 7th place person is going to move up into 6th place. And if the judges don't rank through 10, then we wouldn't know who to fill that place. That the sixth place was vacated when they all moved up with the disqualification. That's the rationale behind that.
Thanks.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, yeah. You're really what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to announce the state qualifiers in somewhat of a random order. Um, I've done this in different ways in the past. I've gone through the roster and just gone up from the bottom because they in general they don't recognize that you're going from the bottom to the top on the roster, and then you just skip over sixth, fifth, fourth, third, second, and first place. You just skip those as you're going up, you know. You can do it another way. You can start in the middle and go down and then go back to the top and go back down to the spot where you started. However you want to do that, it's supposed to be sort of arbitrary. Um, but if they know that that they were test number 501 and you are calling out the people in order that were after them, then they kind of know that they're in the medal before they're supposed to know it. Right? There should be some sort of like suspense that they don't know that they're going to medal while you're still doing the process of passing out ribbons. All right, now suppose that a student or anyone from that student's school does not attend the verification. They give up their right to contest any of the material, but more importantly at this point is what do you do with the ribbon and what do you do with the medal if they are not there to claim the medal? For the ribbon, at that time, after verification is over and you're in the process of giving out the awards, you can write the student's name, school, and contest on the back of the ribbon. We need all three of those pieces of information. We need the school so we know where to send it to. We need the contestant name so they know who to give it to. And we need the event, the contest, and the grade so that the school knows what this ribbon is actually for. So make sure you have all three of those pieces of information on the back of the ribbon. If you have an unclaimed medal, then just make a little note on the roster. And then when you bring the roster and the medal back to the tab room, we will ask one of the tab assistants to make a little sticker and put it on the medal and put that in the school's envelope. Since this is the first weekend of the meet, there will be certain things that the schools can pick up from the meet and certain things that they're not allowed to keep. So they're not allowed to keep the test. But if a school comes and they says, I think my kid won a medal, we're allowed to give them the medal. We don't keep the medal and mail it to them if there's somebody there willing to come and pick it up. So after verification and the awards, come back to the tab room, Derek 236. Fill out the green contest evaluation form. You could have done this already after the awards. And make sure everything's completed in pencil. Give it back to either myself, Ellen, or Heather. Please mention that verification is over because we get confused during the day and we don't know where people are in the contest. It's all kind of a big blur somewhere around 1:30 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So be sure and mention where you are in the process. turn in your signed director's checklist, sign the roster at the bottom or on the back, and make sure any unclaimed awards have been labeled or told to be labeled. And then you return all the packets, all the packet information. There will be these purple boxes, baskets that'll be laid out and marked with what things should go where. Okay. The idea behind being the contest director is you show up to the tab room in the morning and we give you this packet and you go and you do stuff. And at the end of the day, everything comes back. You come in with nothing and you leave with nothing. We take it all back. Okay. Heather, go ahead.
If my contest is at 3 and I pick up my packet at 8, am I going to walk around all day with my packet?
You can, but you can also just leave the packet in there and come and pick it up about 2:30. We don't start to panic about not having a contest director until about 30 to 45 minutes before the contest.
Am I going to keep my packet between my contest and the verification?
Yes. Once you pick up the packet, you are responsible for the packet throughout the rest of the day until you return it at the end of verification. Yes. Okay.
One more question.
Okay, go ahead.
What if I need to park my packet in the tab room because I'm going to another contest before verification of the first?
You can come and see us about that. In general, we try not to do that because that's how things get lost. But if that's something then that we need to do, we can talk about that. Yeah. Okay. All right. So for speech and subjective contest, the process is a little bit different. So after your contest and your judging, but before you dismiss the judges, there's a couple of things to note. You should determine the ranks. So if it's a subjective contest with ready writing, creative writing, and on-site drawing, the judges are allowed to conference, and they should, to determine the ranks. That's how they determine the ranks. Each judge in a ready writing contest comes in and says, well, I kind of like these for the top 10, and then they talk about it and they come to a consensus. Same thing with creative writing. On-site drawing is a little bit different. There are 3 judges that will be the judges for all 3 grade levels of on-site drawing. One judge is the lead judge for 1 grade. Second judge is the lead judge for the middle grade, 7th grade, and another judge is the lead judge for 8th grade. The lead judges go into their respective rooms first and make comments for all 20-something pieces of art. And in the process, they whittle it down to the top 10. So this person whittles it down to the top 10 in their room, top 10 in their room, and top 10 in their room. Then after the choosing of the top 10 have been determined, then the judges get together and go through the rooms one at a time as a group. The other judges make comments as well, briefly, on each of the pieces. But it's the top 10 that the lead judge chose that the 3 judges then conference about to determine the actual ranks, right? So when the lead judge determines that these 10 pieces are the top 10, they're not necessarily saying this one is first, this one is second, this one is third. They're just putting this into the group that is going to be the top 10. Together as a group of 3, they work together to determine first, second, third, all the way down to 10. Okay. So that's the sort of quirky difference between all the other contests and on-site. We have somebody that comes in and determines what the top 10 is, and then the judges just have to worry about the top 10 as a group. Now let's contrast that with the speech events. For the speech events, the judges do not conference. The judges are responsible for creating their own ranks. As a contest director, what you will do is you'll give them a few minutes after the last speaker to finish up their comments and then to create the ranks. You'll ask for the ranks from the judges, and you will quickly write them down on the ranking sheet. You'll fill out the rest of the ranking sheet, and then you will look up the index for the ranks for each contestant. You do this before the judges are released. You hold the judges until after you have completed at least the index part of the ranking system. What you're looking for is in the event that you have a three-way tie. A three-way tie will be indicated when you have three of the same indices from the ranking index chart. If you do have a three-way tie, the judges then confer, but only to determine the relative rankings of those three individuals that are involved in the three-way tie. So out of that conference, the judges will get together and decide one of them is the best, one of them is the middle, and one of them is the lowest. And you put those relative ranks, whatever ranks they may be first, second, and third, but they also may be third, fourth, and fifth place, right? They may be in the middle. So, and the judges don't need to know where they are whenever they do that. The rest of the ranks come out just a normal. But this is an important distinction that we are trying to make this year. Because what has happened in the past is the judges would turn in their ranking sheets and leave. And then the contest director then fills out the information and ends up with a three-way tie that should be broken by the judges in their conference. And now they're gone and they can't be reassembled because they've left the meet. They're in a different contest, whatever it is. We do have a method of breaking that tie, but it's not exactly the greatest. It relies on a independent person, usually Ellen, to go through and read the evaluations from the judges for those contestants and make an assessment based on what the judges wrote about how well the student did without ever seeing the contestant. And then if that doesn't work, we flip a coin. So it's better if we have judges who have actually seen the contestant perform make the assessment about the relative strength of each of those contestants. Let's see. Yes. Okay. So after the contest and the judging, but before you dismiss the judges, make sure you complete the roster with all the ranks, at least the indices, right? If you can do all the ranks, that would be great too. And you paperclip the evaluations together. Then dismiss the judges, clear out the room, and then return to the tab room. Have your results reviewed and initialed by either myself or Ellen. If it's a speech contest, you definitely want to go to Ellen, or Heather can help out as well. But Ellen is our speech coordinator. An assistant will then issue medals if you're in the final round or qualifying ribbons for the state qualifiers based on the numbers in your contest. So for subjective contest, you would get medals and ribbons. Everybody gets something. For a speech prelim, you would only get qualifying ribbons for the students who are not advancing to finals. During the finals round, you will probably only get the medals because there will be 6 contestants in the final round and there are 6 places. It is possible, it has happened, that in the finals round, a contestant disqualifies themselves for doing something, and so they don't get a medal, but then they go back to getting a ribbon. But that's rare, but it could happen. Again, don't write on the ribbons. Even disqualified students get a ribbon. Then you go to the evaluation return. So there is no verification because there's nothing to verify. The results of this contest cannot be contested by the contestants. They are what they are. So you pass out the evaluations, put together from the 3 judges. You can use the help of your assistant director to do that. For the ready writing and the creative writing essays, those must be returned back to us. So the contestant can see their writings, but then they have to come back. The on-site drawing, they can go home with the contestants. If it's a preliminary speech round, you should attach the qualifying state qualifying ribbon to the evaluations of the contestants who are not advancing to finals. Because remember, you only get a qualifying ribbon at a state meet if you're not going to get a medal. You announce the following contestants have advanced to finals, and you read off the list of those contestants. The number of contestants advancing is on the packet, right? So we did have some problems at district where people didn't know how many people should advance from the prelim section into finals. And so we ended up with finals that only had 4 contestants when they really should have had 6. They should have advanced 2. They should have advanced 3 contestants from the 2 prelims that they had. The number of contestants that we advance at state still depends on the number of prelims, and we have different numbers of prelims for different numbers of speech sections. When you are announcing who is advancing to the finals, you do not mention what rank they received during the prelim. It's just these 2 or these 3 contestants are advancing to finals. Period. That's it. If you have a finals speech round, you announce any state qualifiers first, resulting from a DQ. Again, very rare. Then you announce the winners from 6th place up to 1st place, drape the medals over the students, and you do allow photography during the medal ceremony. Any unclaimed ribbons or medals, write the names of the student, the school, and the contest on the ribbon. Bring the medal back after notating it on the roster that the student did not pick up their ribbon. And then we'll put a little label on it, put it in the right bag. After evaluation return, come back to the tab room, fill out the green evaluation sheet indicating any absent workers. Make sure the contest roster is completed in pencil, sign the roster, sign the checklist, turn all that in, make sure everything got labeled, and return all the material back to us. Now, we are doing something a little bit different this year with the speech rosters and the information that goes with the speech roster. For a speech contest, we want a packet created, and we'll create the packet in the tab room and staple it together. But it needs to be the roster, followed by the ranking sheet, followed by the 3 judges' ranking sheets. We're going to want all that stapled together. We had such a difficult time at district when these pieces were just sort of in different places. When a question would come up about the rankings of contestants in a speech contest, and we say, well, we need to pull the original ranking sheet, and it couldn't be found. It's like, well, it's in another box someplace else. If all of that is together, we'll be able to solve problems and answer questions quickly, having all of that information together. So we're going to create that little packet. Everything's going to be sort of colored and colored pieces of paper, and everything will be great. Okay, questions over contest direction. Again, you'll have access to the contest director's checklist. I'm going to put that online, hopefully tonight, and make that a link that you can download. I have to do some changes. Make sure that those are all ready to go, but otherwise I'm going to put that, make that available. You'll also have the list in your packet. And if you did contest direction at district, it should be about the same. Okay. All right. Our last topic for the evening is the speech rank procedure example. So this is an example of how to complete the speech ranking sheet when you have 3 judges. And luckily we have 3 judges scheduled for all of our speech contests this year. Whether or not we'll actually have them show up, that's another question, but we do have them scheduled. All right. So here's how this works. So you would get the judge's ballot from the judge. And this judge has given the speakers A through F 4, 6, 1, 5, 3, 2. So you'd write that on your ranking sheet. Then you would go to the next judge. That judge gives us a 2, 5, 1, 3, 4, 6. That's judge 2. Also, notice how these items are labeled judge 1, judge 2, and judge 3. Try to put those judge numbers in the correct column as the judge numbers are listed at the top of the roster, right? So that way, if we have any question, we know which judge was responsible for which set of results. Judge 3 comes back with a 1, 4, 2, 3, 6, 5. So you place those in that order right there. Now, once you have all 3 judges in the sheet, then you rewrite the ranks in order from best to worst, left to right. So remember, best is lower numbers. So you just write them in order from best to worst. So a 1, 2, and a 4 becomes a 1, 2, 4, right? Or I should say it this way. A 4, 2, 1 gets rewritten as a 1, 2, 4. A 6, 5, 4 becomes a 4, 5, 6. And then et cetera, all the way through the chart. These are the numbers in this order that you use to create the index. The index chart is a list of what beats what, right? So let's look at the reverse table speech ranking list and assign the index for each of these rankings. So this will be in your packet, but you look at this list right here. The first one I want to do is 1, 2, 4. And so you look up on the list, where is 1, 2, 4? Now this is in order, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 3, etc., all the way down to 9, 9, 9. And so you want to look up and see where 1, 2, 4 is. 1, 2, 4 is right here. That index is a 13. So you come over here and you write 13. Then you go to the next one. 4, 5, 6. Where is 4, 5, 6? Okay, these are all in order. 4, 5, and 6 right here. So that's a 114. And you do that for the rest of them. 1, 1, 2 is a 2. 3, 3, 5 is a 60, and so on. The index here, you can see, straight ones would be the best a speaker could get. That's a number 1 index, which is the best possible, right? So the lower the index, the better the rank, right? The lower the index, the better the rank. The lowest index is the best rank. And so the lowest index among these is a 2. So that person is going to get first place. The next index is a 13. So that person is going to get second place. And so on. And that's how you create that. Now, this last step, you can do that in the contest room if you want. Or you can wait until you get to the tab room. But it's this step right here with the indices that is essential that you do that in the contest room before you release the judges, because it's right here in the index where if there are 3 repeated indices, that's the indication that you have a 3-way tie that the judges need to conference on. In this case, no index is repeated, and we get these wonderful rankings right here. And that's how you do it. That's as straightforward as you get. Any questions over how to use the speech ranking sheet? So you'll have this sheet right over here. The only reason for this middle set of columns is so that you can easily find this over here. You can just look at this right here, 4, 2, and a 1. That's going to be listed as 1, 2, 4. That's all that is. It just helps you to find it over here. It's a 13. All right. So that's the end of our program for this evening. Thank you so much for being here and for volunteering. Um, be sure to enjoy the hospitality room. It'll be in Derrick 229 when you get a chance throughout the day. There'll be some snacks and a light lunch. And thank you so much for being here. We know that the whole PSA contest couldn't exist without uh, the leadership of the contest directors. And that's why we need to make it a great contest by being well prepared for all the kids. I'll stay on for a few minutes if anybody has any questions. And I will turn this into a video and post it online if you want to watch the replay of anything. But otherwise, thank you for being here and have a great night. Yes, thank you. Thank you. I hope that was helpful. A lot of the information is going to have to you can just read through the checklist and it tells you exactly what to say and some other parts. So, but for those of you who want to leave, have a great night. Thanks for being here. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you. Thanks, Dan.
I just had a parent ask about like the ready writing, if they're grading that.
Yes.
Or they're just given that sheet that has the 3 areas that they make notes about, and then they just all confer together to decide. There's not really like a rubric that gives them a specific score.
That's right. There's no rubric. There should not be a score.
Okay.
That was rejected last year at the summer meetings.
Okay.
Rubrics and scores and such like that. Um, the committee felt that a rubric can't adequately sort of, ferret out good writing. Good writing should stand out on its own without a rubric. That kind of stuff was said,
Okay.
bandied about. But yeah, so no, usually I think what they actually do is they sort of read through all of them and they sort of have their favorites, maybe 6 or 7 of their favorites each, maybe up to 10 or whatever. And then they say, well, I really like this one, and they all agree, and so that one's sort of definitely that one's in. And then another one somebody liked, but the other 2 didn't like. So that you got to have to figure out what happens with that one. And you sort of whittle it down, talking about the relative strengths of each person's thesis and exposition and whatnot. So yeah, that's
So
why
does
the reading
each
does take
judge
a
fill
while.
out,
Say again, Mary.
does each judge fill out a comment sheet for every story, or
No, I believe it's one sheet and each judge puts down comments in a different section.
okay,
Let me verify that for you.
thank you.
Yeah, so I don't know if you can see this or not.
Okay, so they just each make a little comment
Yeah,
for the
there's
person.
1, there's 2, and there's 3. This is good
Perfect.
stuff. This is 1, 2, and 3. This is stuff to improve. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and the comments are pretty brief.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Yeah. Here's what it says at the top. Evaluation. The compositions are to be evaluated as to the relative excellence in interest, organization, and correctness of style as delineated in the PSA Academic Handbook and the Ready Writing Handbook for Elementary and Middle School. Please make comments constructive and supportive, but do not avoid giving constructive criticism as well. While judges are to consider all 3 elements in selecting the most effective compositions, they should weigh interest more than organization and organization more than correctness of style. And then it says interest is 50%, organization is 35%, and correctness of style is 15%. So
Great. Thank you so much. It's very
yeah, you bet.
helpful.
Yeah, I hope that it's rough grading those because you're just looking for really good writing. I would also tell them that something that came up, it was either last year or the year before, there was this one essay that was really well written, absolutely fantastically well written, but it didn't answer the question that was asked.
Oh,
And they wanted to know what to do with that. And the answer is you can't really rank it that high. If
right.
if
They
it's an
didn't write to
essay
the
that doesn't
prompt.
answer the question and follow the prompt,
Right.
that's a no. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Thank you so
yeah,
much.
you bet. Look forward to meeting you on Saturday.
I know, we're so excited. Thank you.
It'll be great. Thank you, Mary. Appreciate it. Any other questions that I could answer for people? All right. Well, thank you all for being here. And we'll see you all on Saturday in the tab room. Have a great night.